It's time to take a deep breath and quiet the mind. Every breath and thought was energy that brought us to our experience in this moment. We are going to exercise our beliefs in the possible. We will bend and create our own realities. Let's explore how to square our recovery and thrive in life. I welcome you to Recovery Squared Radio with your host, Steve Wofford.
Welcome to Recovery Squared Radio. I'm Steve Wofford. Today, I want to share about the belief guide that I created that's available on recoverysquared.com. When you click on the Get Access button, if you enter your email address, I'll email you the guide, as well as some other resources on how you can square your recovery. But I wanted to share a little bit about where that guide came from. And what I was trying to do, I worked with an artist friend of mine, and I wanted to show the path of transformation. And I've done a ton of belief work and belief breakthrough with my coaches, and it's something I use in my coaching practice when I'm coaching someone one-on-one. Anytime I'm not getting the results that I want, I automatically go back and I try to find that belief that's caused the suffering. Because I believe that our thoughts are either created or interpreted by our belief systems. And so when we come to a point where we need to judge something, we're judging it based on a belief, and then our results are manifested, and that could be a good result, or it could be a bad result that we don't want. And so I've learned to live this continual process of making sure that my operating system of beliefs is tuned to the universal laws of truth and love. So anytime we are not in tune with that, we're fractured from truth and love, we don't get the results that we want. And I talk a lot about this in episode 9 called How to Break Free from a Fractured Existence. And that episode is about aligning yourself to truth and love. You can access it at recoverysquared.com/9. One of the ways that we become fractured is that our beliefs are not in alignment with our highest self, our highest truth, or not fully standing in the love that we are. And so that's why this belief guide is an important tool in understanding where you're at. And I know that I've had to have my own team of coaches and healers and mentors that have had to walk me through these many different levels, and it's years worth of work, but I'm continually trying to improve my operating system. Because one of the other things that I often say is the beliefs that got me here will not get you there. And one of the dangers that I really try to watch out for, and that is probably one of the most challenging things I deal with people as a coach or people in general, is that the attitude that I'm good. I don't need to work on myself. Everything I believe is true. When I'm speaking with someone like that, or even when I notice when I'm getting caught up in that, because what the mind tries to do is it tries to justify your belief system. And if your belief system is one that is not serving, that's not true, or that is not fully standing in love, your mind will reinforce a lie and self-deception. And that's where you get denial. And sometimes our denial is not always you have a massive problem and destroying your life. Oftentimes I work with very successful people, and it's those little deceptions that hold us back. And so I want to be completely open-minded that my next possibility might be a limiting belief that I'm holding on to. I just got done writing an article. You can check recoverysquared.com for updates and it will be published soon. But what I came to realize during the writing of this article and doing my own deep internal work that I've been doing the last couple weeks, it's really brought up a lot of stuff from my childhood. What it brought up was when I was 6 or 7 years old, I had this dog named Smitty. And I don't know if you could imagine or relate to this, possibly, but this little puppy was my world. He was my best friend. And I was so excited to spend time with him every day, and I woke up and I wanted to go play with him, and he was like my best friend, a playmate, and my buddy that absolutely followed me everywhere. One day, I went to go wash my bike, and I remember going through the gate and trying to get my bike through it, and I had to hold it open, and I couldn't do it, and I had left the gate open because I put a cinder block brick in it because I needed the door open, and I'm not sure why I didn't go back and shut it, but I remember while I was washing my bike, there were some people outside our fence, and I remember thinking, that's odd. Cars don't normally stop there. Why are they out there talking? It's in between two houses on a street. There's no reason for someone to stop there. And some time went by, and I don't really remember this all, but I go into the house, and my mom says Smitty was hit by a car. And she says I lost it. I don't really remember. But even talking about it now, I can still feel that pain. I still remember it because that was the first time in my life that I experienced gut-wrenching loss. And that's also about the same age that many of our belief systems are created. And it was really not apparent to me until I talked to my mom when I was processing this, going, why does this still hurt? I think I cried every day for like a week. I think maybe today and yesterday was the first day I didn't cry over this, but I had to call my mom. I'm like, Mom, what happened? Why is this so painful? I'm 39 years old and I'm crying about my puppy when I was 6. Like, what the hell? And she didn't really have an answer other than that she's never saw anyone lose it like that. I was crushed and heartbroken, but she said one thing that stood out to me, and this was a nugget. She told me that he got out the back gate. And then it hit me like a bolt of lightning. He didn't get out the back gate. He got out the front gate. And then I specifically remember lying to my parents that he must have got out of the back gate. I didn't leave the gate open. I didn't want to get in trouble. I thought if I left the gate open, and I'm thinking, I don't really remember back, but my parents likely got mad at me for leaving the gate open before because they wanted it shut. I know I tell my kids, shut the back door. You're letting all the hot air out or cold air out. I'm telling my kids all the time, keep the door shut. Keep the gate shut. Shut the car door. That kind of nagging stuff parents do. But I didn't want to get in trouble. But I remembered that I lied. And I was like, why did I lie? And it was because I didn't want to be in trouble or it to be my fault that I did something wrong to get my dog killed, because that would have been harder to accept. But guess what I did anyways? I beat myself up over it. I don't know if you can relate to those sorts of feelings, being critical of yourself, wanting to replay something that you did wrong over and over and over in your head. Because guess what? I lived like that for over 3 decades. If I wouldn't have done X, Y, and Z, I wouldn't have experienced this. I caused this. And it's interesting because when I talk about the worst day of my life in episode 7 at recoverysquared.com/7, during my wife's affair at the time, I believed that somehow like I pushed her away. If I didn't use drugs and alcohol, my wife would really love me. If I didn't push her away, she wouldn't have had an affair. So I had this belief system that if I did right, X, Y, and Z bad thing wouldn't happen to me. And so I carried that around a long time. And even though the last couple weeks I don't necessarily run under that operating system anymore, there are still depths to finding out where it came from, because you can't entirely get rid of it until you can really find out where it came from. And so one of the practices I use is I have a team of people that help me from different healing modalities to help me go deep into finding who I am and my truth, because I can only take people as far as I've gone myself. And I'm pushing for everyone because I have places to go and I want people to come with me. I want to be able to show people the solutions that are available. And that's what Recovery Squared is. It's about showcasing some of those modalities and thought around transformation specific to recovery. Because how I try to live my life is that, recovery really is just a stage in transformation. Like oftentimes I don't say that I'm in recovery. Do I live a recovery-based lifestyle? Yes, I do. But I'm not recovered, or whatever. I am in the process of transformation. And my message is just niched down to people in recovery because that's part of my story. And I want to show people that there's a path. And it's an amazing way to live. And I feel so blessed I get to go and clean out all this stuff that just no longer serves me. So, but if you have a chance to look at the belief guide again, you can get it at recoverysquared.com and click on the Get Access button, enter your email address, and I'll send it over to you. But when you look at that guide, at the bottom, it's basically, or if you don't have it in front of you, I can kind of explain. It's basically, it starts with what I guess the best way to explain it would be heaven up in the clouds. And then as you come down from the clouds, you see the mountains, the Recovery Squared leaves, and then some grass and some mountains, and then the roots of the plant go down, and it ends up in a grave, or in other words, a hell. And so what I wanted to do was to illustrate the belief process that I went to. This became apparent to me when I left the traditional 12-step recovery, and I loved the foundation that it created. But as I was living in my transformation, I started to look at my beliefs and the things that I was affirming. I took responsibility for them, because the one thing I learned in recovery was that you act your way into better thinking. Now, the way I talk is me acting. So if I didn't want to think like an addict, I'm not going to act like an addict. And so that means I must change my words to not talk nor think like an addict. I can't say that I'm an addict and then not think like it. It becomes more difficult to do. And so when I had that revelation, I kind of came up with this concept that, when I was really living in a hell, that I believed that I needed drugs, and drugs were a solution for me. And it worked, it didn't work, I don't know. I don't need to judge it, but what I do know was that stopped serving me, and that's when I reached out for help and got involved in the 12-step recovery. And what they taught me was that I'm clean, but I'm still an addict or an alcoholic, depending on the program you go to. And that's all part of the perfect process, and I love that. And I love that stage I was at. But my journey continued on from there. I actually cured disease in my body. I don't get sick anymore. And so I no longer am going to say I suffer from the disease of addiction or that it's in remission somehow. It just isn't there at all. And today, my highest belief is that I am truth and love. And so it was very important for me to have the process of those beliefs in my transformation. Because going back down, at one point, I was a drug addict, even when I was not using, because I could get addicted to other things. It could be pornography, attention from girls, dating apps, Facebook, sugar. There's all sorts of addictions that we replace when we don't get to the core. But I want that core rooted out for everyone. I want to shine light on this, in the possibility and living your infinite potential. Like, that's my mission. Why I do everything I do comes down to one expression, that's in one of one. And what that means is I become one and whole. Me and you become one and whole in the universe under God. And so when I need to become one and whole myself, I can't have the fractured belief systems that I explained in episode number 9. I have to stand in my truth. And as I stand in my truth, I become whole and one. And really, this guide, I'm using the example of drugs and alcohol, but it could be really anything. I mean, let's take sickness and illness. I've talked to people that somehow believe that they deserve to be sick, or that's just what happens. Life is hard. And then you have to depend on a doctor. Like, I can get better if the doctor does it right, or I find the right medication when they find the right medication. And that might bring you up maybe from a death, but you're still dependent on something outside of yourself. And I didn't use any doctor to cure my disease. And actually, in my experience, they did a lot of harm. But when I'm fully in love and truth, I can bring healing. I operate at a higher vibrational level where disease does not exist, illness does not exist, sickness does not exist. We could apply this to our careers. Are you working a career that's not good or toxic for you? Or a job that's going nowhere? And that we believe that somehow because of our upbringing or somehow we don't deserve like everyone else has, that I'm not worthy is what that comes down to it. And only if you work hard enough, more overtime, get that promotion, go to school, that you can have what you want. But to me, that's just average. When you stand in your truth, when you stand in love, all those things, it's like you don't have to work for them. They just become easier and they flow. Not saying it's always easy and you don't have to do anything and you just float around in the clouds. Like right now, I'm recording this episode at 11:30 at night, the day before I need to release it, but I'm just flowing. I love what I do. This isn't work for me. This is the first step that I take people through, and also the first step when I come to judging my fruits in my life. Is there something showing up that I don't like? And I take myself through this process. And this is the process that I use when I'm coaching people. This is where we start. We have to get our operating systems of beliefs in alignment to truth and love. When we don't do that, everything we do is as fractured as we are fractured from ourselves and who we really are. Because when we're misaligned to our truth and love, everything we do becomes fractured to the degree that we're fractured from who we really are. And when we become aligned with who we really are, everything else in life flows. And another concept I'd like to throw out there is in episode number 1, how the Recovery Squared logo is a pathway to transformation. You can access it by going to recoverysquared.com/1. But I talk about the law of gestation. And that's why I use the plant and the roots. Was because the only thing that really slows us down is the law of gestation. Because time is really just a construct to stop everything from happening at once. So when we're in perfect alignment, time is the only thing that we have to actually wait for. Again, you can access the Recovery Squared Belief Guide by clicking on the Get Access button on recoverysquared.com and enter your email address, and I'll email it to you. I love you, and thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to Recovery Squared Radio. Please visit recoverysquared.com for access to resources on squaring your recovery. And as a reminder, act without doing. Create space between your thoughts and actions.